Hey, what's good? Coach Colin Castell here with ShotMechanics Basketball, and welcome to the ShotMechanics Recruiting Show. So today I decided to bring on Nick Jones from Captain U, who's kind of the specialist when it comes to recruiting. Now, you've probably seen us, we've kind of done this partnership with Captain U, which is one of the best tools out there to get recruited. And so Nick was cool enough to come on, and he's going to give us some tips and some tricks that are going to help you guys, kind of start on your recruiting journey and then, have the best chance of getting recruited at the end of the day. So Nick, welcome to the show. So let's start. Just tell us a little bit about your background. Tell us about, what you do at Captain U and all that sort of good stuff.
Yeah, it's great to be here. I'm actually from the state of Kentucky. So as you guys know, basketball is huge in that state. I grew up, following the recruiting in the state, following, big time players that were trying to come to the University of Kentucky, University of Louisville. I ended up going to the University of Kentucky for college, worked closely with their basketball program. Very familiar with big-time recruitments and things of that nature. Spent a lot of time on the AAU circuit, so I know how high school basketball works. I know how recruiting works, and I kind of brought that expertise here to Captain U to work with our athletes, specifically our basketball athletes, and I do the athlete development for Captain U.
Cool. Awesome. Good to hear. So just as a shameless plug, everybody, before we get started, this is brought to you guys by Captain U. I love Captain U personally. I think it's probably the best tool that there is as far as kind of getting your recruiting process started. So in the link in the description down below and also the button above, you're going to be able to sign up for a free athlete recruiting profile. It's essentially like a plain resume that you can sign up, send to college coaches, do all that sort of stuff. But there's a lot of other really cool stuff that Captain U does that we'll probably get into later a little bit. But for now, we want to kind of talk about exactly, the things and the steps that you can take as an athlete to start your recruiting process and then also kind of make it successful towards the end. Because a lot of people don't realize that recruiting is kind of a slow burn. It's not something that happens overnight. You generally don't have a bunch of college coaches that are going to flock and just want to sign you immediately. There's a lot of hustle that goes into it. And so today what we're going to do with Nick is we're going to kind of talk about exactly what you need to do to kind of start that hustle off right. So the very first thing, Nick, I want to talk about is when should young athletes start thinking about the recruiting process? Because I know it's probably earlier than a lot of people might think.
Yeah, absolutely. And you said it. I mean, recruiting, it's a hustle. It takes time. You need to build out relationships with these coaches. So it's never too early to start thinking about recruiting. You should be doing it as you go from making that transition from your 8th grade year to your freshman year of high school. That summer when you're about to go to high school, you've made your high school decision about where you're going to go and where you're going to play your high school athletics. At that point, it's time to turn your attention to these next 4 years and start thinking about colleges. As far as thinking about the recruiting process, you do it from 8th grade to your freshman year. As far as when you should get serious about it, whenever that freshman season starts, whatever sport you're playing, in this case, it'd be basketball, obviously. So, coming into these winter months, October rolls around of your freshman year, start thinking about some colleges that you're interested in. Start thinking about ways that you can get in front of them. And it really should start in that October month, whenever you get through your tryouts, whenever practice is getting started in your freshman year, that's when you should get the ball rolling.
Cool. And that's interesting because that's a lot earlier than I think a lot of people think. When I was going through high school and I was thinking about recruiting, I didn't even really consider thinking about it until late my junior year, going into my summer between junior and senior year. And by that point in time, it's just a little bit too late to start building those connections. A lot of times coaches already have the guys that they're interested in on their radar. So really it's becoming a little bit of an arms race where you've got to get on it as early as you can. And it's never too late to start, but the earlier is generally the better, right? Is that kind of what you're saying?
Absolutely. I mean, this is all about building out relationships with these coaches. It takes time to build relationships. These coaches want to get to know you. They want to get to know your families. They want to know your background. They want to get to know your coaches. So these things take time, and giving yourself 2-3 years to let it play out, it's only going to be beneficial to you.
Yeah, for sure. That makes sense. And building relationships with college coaches, like you mentioned, is super, super important because they get to know you, they get to know your character, they get to know, how you'll maybe kind of fit in their program. So, what are in your eyes some of the best ways that you can connect with college coaches and kind of start to build those relationships?
Well, the best ways to get in front of them, obviously you can use a tool like Captain U, where you're using, your athletic resume. It's all in one place. You can use it to sell yourself, your abilities, even your abilities in the classroom or the things that you're doing off the court. It's all stored in one place. So, you use that to get in front of these coaches and you make an introduction with them, and then you let that athletic resume do the talking, and that's really the first step to all of this.
Cool. So once you've kind of made a connection with the college coach, whether it be on Captain U or you met him at a tournament or whatever it is, how do you go about kind of cultivating that relationship over the years? Because recruiting is a little bit of a slow burn. It's not it's not like, bang, I meet him this week and then next week I get a scholarship. Generally, it's kind of that, kind of years process where you get to know. So what are some things that athletes can do to kind of further on that development and that relationship with the coaches after kind of that initial, interactions?
Right. Well, the best thing to do is first and foremost, to be persistent in this process. Coaches, they're very busy. They get into their own seasons. They get into their coaching their own teams. If you've made a connection with a coach, don't give up on that connection. Don't let them forget about you. Make sure you're staying in front of them by sending them emails, by, sending them text messages once you've gotten to that point, by, scheduling times to meet with these coaches and making it easy on them. And that's really the best advice that I can give you as far as, how to go about the process is, persistence is key with all of this.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. And what I think a lot of athletes don't realize, and something even when I was in high school, is coaches are insanely busy. Like whether they be the head coaches or the assistant coaches, like they are absolutely crazy swamped with like all their practice time, their travel. They generally have families that they're trying to spend time with too. And so to be kind of front and center on their radar as much as you possibly can. A lot of times if you've got two athletes, it seems like if one's in front of a coach a lot more times than another, they're just going to stand out automatically, even if their skills are exactly the same, even if maybe the one who's contacting them a lot has a little bit less skill, because they're kind of in the front of the line and front center on the radar. Generally, that seems to help a little bit. Absolutely.
And the best thing that you can do is to set yourself apart from your peers, is to continually stay in front of the coaches. That's the best advice that I can give.
Cool. That makes sense. So as an athlete, just because there's so many colleges and there's so many, levels, whether it's D1, D2, NAIA, D3, JUCO, whatever it is, how do you know as an athlete what coaches you should be trying to target, what schools you should be trying to target? How do you kind of, go about making sure that you don't waste your time with kind of a shotgun approach where you're just sending things out to everybody? How do you kind of narrow that in a little bit?
Well, this is why you start the process while you're young. In your freshman and your sophomore years, you should be reaching out to a wide range of coaches, from your dream schools. Maybe it's the top levels of Division I, all the way down to those D3 NAIA levels, because this is ultimately about finding the right fit for you. And you're not going to be able to do that unless there is some trial and error involved. So go after your dream schools, and then have some backup plans, and maybe you'll fall somewhere in between. But you start off by casting that wide net, and then narrowing your search as you go through, because ultimately this is all about finding that right fit.
That makes sense. That totally makes sense. And I think when it comes to, finding that right fit, like not everybody's going to have the exact same right fit. And something that I see a lot of players do is they kind of reach for that highest and best offer that they get. Maybe they get one D offer, or maybe they get one D2 offer, and then they end up taking just the best or highest offer that they get, and it ends up not being the best fit. One of the players that I used to train quite a bit, he was a fringe D1 player, but he ended up going and playing D3 because, number one, he wanted a good education, and number two, he wanted to be the stud. And because of that, he was able to be all conference. He was able to be like the all-time leading rebounder in school's history. And so he had an awesome basketball experience, where a lot of times I see these guys, kind of overreach and maybe take just that highest and best offer, and then it ends up kind of coming back to bite them, and it kind of burns them out on their basketball career because it's just not where they, the perfect fit. So with that being said, is there a year along the journey when you really want to start getting serious with kind of narrowing that net down? And once you get kind of towards the end, how many schools should be kind of focused on, in your junior, senior year of recruiting?
Definitely. So you definitely want to be able to narrow that search beginning in your junior year. When you get into, you've played AAU ball throughout the summer, and you've got those few months between the summer and when October rolls around and your high school season starts. You want to start narrowing your search to where you've developed some real relationships with coaches. Maybe you've narrowed it to 10 schools or 5 schools. It's going to look different for each athlete. But by the time you get to your junior year, you want to have narrowed that search down, and really start to hone in on particular coaches or particular programs that you're most interested in. And it's not always about the fit on the basketball court. This is about finding the right fit for you in the classroom, the right fit for you socially, about what sort of campuses you like, the environment that you need to be in. So you need to take all of these things into consideration, and the junior year is really your time to start doing that.
Okay, that's good to know. Because it's funny because I compare it to kind of my process and when I was trying to get recruited and go and play college ball and all that sort of stuff. And it's interesting how like I just did everything so late, but I didn't feel like it was late. It seemed like the time that I was supposed to start doing it, but really, I mean, in actuality, coaches already had their eyes on guys. They already had their players picked, and I was a little bit late to the game. So I think players, one thing that's really important too is to think about the program and the coaches and the style that's going to kind of, be a part of the team that you're trying to get onto. If you're a quick, fast-paced point guard who likes to score a lot from the perimeter, you probably don't want to go play for a program who's going to be more, grind it out, churn and burn, dump it into the post, let them go to work, because it's not going to really fit your skill set. So it's interesting because you can't just say, I want to go to Kentucky or I want to go to Duke or whatever it is. You kind of have to, at least I think it's beneficial to figure out where your game fits with the coaching style, with the program, and then that's kind of a great spot to start. Absolutely. And that's, again, why you start early. If you get into it late in the process like you did, Colin, you might not be able to find that right fit. You got to be able to do your research on these programs. You want to get out and see these programs play live. You want to give these coaches a chance to come see you play. So starting late in your senior year, if you decide you want to play, it really limits your ability to do that research. And that's why you start in your freshman and sophomore season, so that, you have time to do all these things and really work through it. Cool. That totally makes sense. So, everybody out there who's watching right now, the reason why I partnered up with Captain U as a company is because I think they are absolutely phenomenal at what they do. And it's something that I think if it would have existed when I was in high school, probably would have changed my future. It's just the overall easiness to use of the tool. And the usability and the interface and everything's just so perfect. When I was trying to get recruited, I had these massive 3-ring binders and I had to do all of this research of finding coaches' emails, finding school addresses, finding where schools were at, so I was trying to play like some JUCO ball, some NAIA ball, and there's a lot of those colleges across the country. And it was just absolutely overwhelming to try to figure out, what coaches were where. I'd try to email a coach, but he'd moved to a different school and so basically what Captain U does for you guys as players is, number one, gives you that recruiting profile, right? You can do really cool stuff like, add highlight videos, add your GPA, add your AUs, add references, testimonials, all that sort of good stuff. But more importantly, if you upgrade to the paid version, which I highly recommend, it is more than worth it. If you upgrade to that paid profile, then you get to contact college coaches directly. So, Nick, why don't you tell me a little bit how if players upgrade and kind of the capabilities of Captain U and what they can do with it once they get inside the platform? Yeah, so with our most basic version of the upgraded tools, you're going to be able to reach out to any college coach in the country. If you have a school that that you have in mind that you're interested in communicating with, but you just don't know how, all that information is right in front of you. You can do extensive research on every program. You can get in touch with any coach that you want to, and they can find you as well. So the profile acts as the middleman in this recruiting process. You upload your information. We have a team of people here at Captain U that work with the college coaches every day to help them find the athletes that meet their criteria. So put yourself out there. Get all of your information into your profile, and then let it speak for itself. And then the best thing that you get on these upgraded tools is you actually get to have a conversation with me. Let's talk one-on-one. Let's talk strategy with your recruitment. Let's find out where you are, and let me figure out how I can best help you get in touch with the schools that you want to be in touch with. Cool. That's awesome. And this might feel a little bit like a shameless plug, and it is in a sense, but with ShotMechanics, what I'm always trying to do is bring you guys the best tools and training to help you with your dreams and your goals, right? And I think that Captain U, even if you're just going to try the free profile, is probably the best tool on the planet as far as the recruiting stuff goes. So I highly recommend you check it out. Again, link in the description, button above. And I would at least check out that free profile for sure to start out with. Because it's just so super easy to send to coaches and they can see all your information. And it's really kind of bringing your recruiting to that 2017 year that you need to kind of catch up on. Now, the last thing that I want to talk about, Nick, real quick is how, you guys like to use Captain U as kind of that conduit or that middleman to actually, getting in front of coaches at AAU tournaments, at events, at, combines, whatever it is. So why don't you talk a little bit just for a second, how you can use that kind of online profile to then meet up with coaches in real life? Absolutely. So one of the biggest things that we do at Captain U is we partner with events all over the country.
we're working with coaches before they go to the events to see who the kids are going to be that are going to be playing. If you're going to an event, make sure you get that into your profile so that coaches can see that you're going to be there. They can then look at your information in your profile, get a brief evaluation of you by watching your film, by watching your highlights. Look at your academic information to make sure you add up to what they're looking for. And it's really easy for them to be able to make that connection with you either before the tournament or after they've gotten a chance to come see you play live.
Cool. That totally makes sense. All right. So guys, it's never too early to start that recruiting process, right? And especially if you're in that kind of junior high, getting ready to hit that high school time. This is when you lay the foundation and the kind of the bottom floor of building that house of your recruiting process. So Nick, much appreciated. Thanks for coming on. Again, if you guys want, you can click the button above, link in the description. If you want to get that free profile and check out Captain U, because it's absolutely phenomenal. So until next time, again, Nick, thanks for coming on. Everybody, thanks for watching. I'll see you later.